Howdy, howdy, Jordan Chariton live, Status Coup. We have a technical moment today as I will be live with our new reporter, JT Siskowski, who is live at the ICE Broadview Detention Center right outside of Chicago, where he, John Farina, our wonderful cameraman, have been doing the Lord's work, if you believe in such a thing, for basically a month. On and off for a month. They've basically been there, aside from a few days, for over a month. Thanks to you, the Status Coup viewers who are supporting us. I will tell you straight up, there's about a 9 to 10 second delay. So if you hear long delays, that's because when I finish speaking, it takes about 10 seconds or so for JT to hear me. So in that span, just meditate, chill, drink some tea, something stronger during that delay. But we wanted to have both of us today because there's a lot to get to, not just from what JT was able to capture over the weekend, which was really incredible. I mean, the fact is we are 5 people here, and we are literally breaking more news on a daily basis than major multi-billion-dollar corporate news outlets, just because we're actually going out into the communities, knocking on doors. And when I say we, I mean JT. JT is out there doing the work. So we're going to get to some of what he uncovered this weekend, as well as what's coming up, which includes the Border Patrol chief is set to appear before a federal judge tomorrow because ICE Border Patrol have been blatantly violating the judge's orders to not tear gas protesters, journalists, community members with no penalty. We also have a really, I would say, alarming incident where ICE apparently pointed a gun at a veteran saying, bang, bang, you're dead, liberal. So we'll get to that. There's so much to get to, and it's all illegal, and it's all wildly insane. Smash the like button, share this live stream, and as we'll push throughout the show, please, if you appreciate this reporting, JT, John have been on the ground for over a month. John has been over the ground definitely for over a month because he was there before JT even started with us. And at some point we'll do a, welcome to the world JT video or interview so you could get to know him. But I want to start before we get to the news. JT, just kind of update us. You got back there a few days ago. Tell the audience, if they haven't seen your reports or videos, kind of the main bullets of what you have been able to uncover, including some pretty significant stories you broke out there.
Oh boy, even trying to just limit it to a few bullet points is going to be really tough, Jordan, because there has been a lot just since I got back here on Friday that I have been covering down here. We've been all over the city in those few days, so I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version here. So it started with Friday. I started out here. This is the Broadview, Illinois ICE detention facility. That's where I am right now. And right up against this same fence line, against that I'm standing against right now, there was a whole little prayer vigil that was held out here Friday morning. I was out here for that, where one of the themes that I've been tracking here now over the course of the last several days is whose side God is on in all of this. A lot of folks on both sides of this issue want to claim that they are somehow enacting the divine will, and my God does really make me scared about what God might believe in if he's on one side of this thing. So that we were out here for that that morning. By that afternoon, I was all the way across the city in one of the richest neighborhoods in Chicago, where homes sell for tens of millions of dollars, that being the Lakeview neighborhood. Oh, excuse me, that was the next day. I'm confusing my neighborhoods and my days because we've been out here so much. But I was across the city. I was in some of the northern neighborhoods of Chicago that day, where ICE had been out terrorizing some of those communities, and terrorizing them so much that actually some of the local elementary schools, I was outside of Burr Elementary School, where parents had organized a community protection of their school, where as soon as school got out, there were dozens of adults, all volunteers or parents, waiting to grab kids and quickly whisk them away so that way they weren't exposed on the streets too long for ICE to approach either them directly or their parents, because that has been one of like the soft spots that ICE has been targeting, has been schools. When schools let out, parents are out there with their kids. ICE has been profiling people, picking people up, and we talked to parents that day about what it is like right now to try and raise a small child amid everything that is happening here in Chicago. The next day, Saturday, again, we were back out. This is when I went out to the Lakeview neighborhood, which is one of Chicago's richest neighborhoods. And there, the day before, was one of those neighborhoods that ICE had actually terrorized the community by dispersing tear gas in these neighborhoods. And I tell you, when I was standing on the corners there just trying to figure out exactly where ICE had been and when, I was struck by how many young families with very small children were out in that neighborhood, all out taking walks. It was beautiful. It's been beautiful fall days out here in Chicago. Lots of people out and about. The number of kids who could have been caught up in that tear gas really made my stomach turn. And while I was out there, I actually spoke to the homeowner who his house had been the one that ICE had hit in that neighborhood, just because he was having some siding work done in the house, and he had some guys of Hispanic descent outside, and just based on purely on the color of their skin and on the job that they were doing, ICE ran up to that home, jumped out of an unmarked white van, ran up to that home, and tried to arrest that crew of 4 guys who were just sitting outside having lunch on the front porch. They had the presence of mind in that moment to lock the front gate of the home, and then they took off around the back of the home looking for any sort of refuge as these masked agents who are not identifying themselves, not producing warrants, jumped the fence. We got ring camera video from the homeowner of all of this playing out. They grabbed one man and quickly detained him. Then they grabbed another who had gone up on the back porch, and he was trying to scramble up higher on the house to get away from the agents. And so he's dangling like 8 or 9 feet off the ground. The agents grab onto him, and they're trying to pull him back down onto the porch. And eventually they spray something in his face that looks like pepper spray, and they get him as well. One of the workers had scrabbled over some construction debris, cut up his hand, was bleeding, left blood all over the homeowner's door and across the floor, but he made it inside and was safe, though his hand was cut up. And what I've been told is that he will be unable to work now for several weeks because of this incident. And then the 4th worker was actually hauled in through a window by one of the man's neighbors, and that neighbor is so scared about being having any kind of repercussions from the federal government that she skipped town. She went to live with relatives outside of Chicago because she's so afraid, and that fear in the community is something that you really sense right now. And then just yesterday, John and I went out to Addison, which is a suburb on the west side of Chicago, where ICE had
hold on for a second.
Pulled up into a supermarket parking lot.
So, like I said, we have a delay, so just bear with us. For people who haven't seen it, I want to show parts of that because it literally looks like straight out of a movie or some type of weird, very dystopian, weird thing. And I want to point out before we show the clip, you need a warrant in America to search somebody's home, to go into somebody's home. Apparently not anymore, because they literally broke into the homeowner's home, who, as you reported, he was out of the country. But let's first, for people who haven't seen it, let's play this footage.
I'm standing near the intersection of Henderson and Lakewood, where just yesterday, Friday, a group of 4 workers were working on a home not too far from where I am standing, doing siding work on that home. They had braked for lunch. They were sitting on the front porch. Masked federal agents, many of whom have been patrolling the streets of Chicago, abducting people based purely on the color of their skin, stopped outside the home. The workers had the forethought to lock the gate before they then took off running towards the back of the home. The DHS agents hopped the fence and continued after the workers.
Get the fuck down.
This video shows one of the workers who clambered up onto the back porch and then attempted to climb up further away from the agents by putting his foot on a ladder on the adjoining home. Agents can be seen here pulling at the man as he is dangling there about 8 feet off the ground. The homeowner told me that the agents eventually used pepper spray or some other kind of spray on this man. One of the workers was reportedly hauled in through a neighbor's window by that neighbor. The neighbor is a woman in her 20s. She is now feeling so fearful about coming that close to ICE and is worried about retaliation on her that she actually went to stay with her parents in the suburbs. One of those workers scrambled over some construction debris in order to get to the back of the home. That man had his hand torn up and needed to get 9 stitches. I took these photos of the back door to the home that the worker went inside of that was covered in the worker's blood. These photos of boot prints are taken from inside the homeowner's garage, left by the ICE agents. The homeowner was in Toronto at the time all of this was happening. He was there on a work trip. He found out about it through notifications he got through his Ring camera app on his phone. One of the workers had scrambled up to the door to ring the door in hopes that the homeowner would unlock the door remotely and let the man inside. But there wasn't time. After the homeowner got those notifications on his Ring camera app, he bought a plane ticket, he told me, within half an hour, and within an hour of getting those notifications was back on a plane here to Chicago. Of the 2 men that they detained, agents let one of them go. The homeowner told me he wasn't sure why one of those men were let go, presumably because that man was able to prove legal residency of some kind. The homeowner tells me he has not heard from DHS at all during this process. He didn't get a warning that they would be coming to his home, and they have not attempted to reach out to him since. He is absolutely incensed about the invasion to his personal property, the invasion to his community by these federal agents. Alder Bennett Lawson, who represents this area, also came out and was doing interviews out here. The homeowner said that he was not impressed by the leadership shown by his alder. He said that leadership in this moment isn't just smiling and shaking hands and going on camera. He said, quote, "This isn't a moment for smiling. This was very violent," unquote. And he wants to see real action taken by his leaders in response to this moment.
So I don't even know where to start. But first off, can I just say, and I'm not just tooting your horn because I, do sign your paychecks and all that, but bravo, real living, breathing journalism in the United Corporations of America. You're not even from Chicago. Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times, they've done some good reporting on Trump's ICE invasion, so I'm not saying they've all been bad. But CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, I believe, got part of this footage, but as far as I know, you're the only one that got all of this Ring camera footage. You're the only one that had this long, in-depth conversation with the homeowner. And it's not because, you're God's gift to the world. It's because you actually showed up, pounded the pavement in the neighborhood, spoke with the homeowner. So first off, can you just tell us, was there a lot of other media trying to tell this story? Because this is literally like an ICE home invasion. That's what it is. And number 2, I thought in America that you need a warrant to break into somebody's home. As soon as they started jumping over the fence, they were breaking in. So did the homeowner mention possibly suing ICE or federal agents?
I'll start with the second part of that question first, Jordan. So the homeowner has said, I asked him about what kind of his next steps were. First, I asked him if he had heard from DHS at all in the lead up to this, incident. Because, as we said, he was not home at the time that this happened. So, had they given him any warning that they were going to have agents at his house? No. He didn't hear anything about it while the agents were at the home. He had to find out, as I said there in that report, from a notification from his Ring camera app, and then had no follow-up whatsoever from the federal government afterwards. So it was just a bunch of masked goons driving around a neighborhood, seeing some people who were brown in this neighborhood and jumping out and going after them and completely disregarding private property or any other of a whole myriad of rights that, we're supposed to just be taking for granted here in the United States of America, but of course we can't anymore. So he has said that he is going to really consider his next steps carefully. So I think he was he seemed like a pretty sharp guy, the homeowner. So I think he was he's not really sure, and that's something that I've heard as a theme throughout all of these incidents, is no one's really sure what they are able to do to try and hold federal agents accountable for their actions out here as private citizens. People are feeling pretty powerless and helpless. They recognize it's wrong. They want to be able to bring a lawsuit, but they're not sure if they can. So he's taking it slowly in that regard. In terms of the media attention that was out there, it was just me. It was just me in the neighborhood the day afterwards. There have been previous scenes where I've been at where, like, as you called out, like the Chicago Sun-Times as an outlet that I've seen that's doing some good stuff here locally in Chicago. I've run into some of their reporters at some of these scenes where ICE agents were, but no, they were not there. Yes, the New York Times got some of this video. They have like a 12-second clip of what happened, but it's really just, throwaway is like part of a couple of paragraphs that are really about, just kind of about ICE operating in Chicago that day more broadly. They don't zoom in to show like the real human cost of what happened here. This worker is going to be out of work for weeks. This family that's now been torn apart because somebody was disappeared by our federal government. So yeah, the New York Times was able to get the homeowner's name. Presumably was there the day of the incident. I showed up. I pounded pavement the next day because that day of I had gone to the elementary schools to get their story. But yeah, that day after, I was the only one out there. And so far as I know, no one else ever bothered to follow up to the degree that we did. I appreciate you as my boss, though, tooting my horn. Thank you very much, Jordan.
Well, you deserve it, because honestly, I don't know, and I will toot all of our horns here. In the month of October, late September to through October, we've been there on the ground for over a month. That's incredibly expensive. I don't know if everyone behind the camera watching right now, viewers, understand. To be somewhere with a cameraman, a reporter for 4 or 5 days, I mean, that's like $2-3 grand right there when they don't live there. So you're talking flights, hotels, if you have to rent a car, food. You guys had to get safety gear because they're literally making this a war zone, gassing you. You've both been tear gassed multiple times. They're shooting stun grenades, pepper balls. So the safety equipment, which obviously we have to get it to keep you safe, that's expensive. And we decided to stay there because honestly, I don't know of any bigger story right now, and there's a lot of craziness and illegal things, but when literally the federal government is invading sovereign cities and essentially creating the violence, which, make no mistake, right now it's rubber bullets. That could change. Fascism quickly escalates. And even with rubber bullets, tear gas, I mean, we've seen a baby get tear gassed just because a newborn was in the zone of where the tear gas was. We've seen injuries. We've seen people terrorized. So we feel, even though it costs a lot for us to be there, we need to stay there and go wherever is next, because Trump is floating, other cities, other communities. And it's not just Chicago, as you've shown. They're going into wealthy neighborhoods in Chicago. They're going into suburbs. You covered a few weeks ago. They shot a woman in Brighton Park, which is majority Hispanic. They said that she and others had boxed in ICE agents, and basically that the residents were the aggressors. That story was quickly debunked. They were lying, which we've seen they've been lying. So they're basically invading pretty much any neighborhood they can. And to be clear, Lakeview is not exactly a hotbed of criminal activity. It's one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in America. So please, if you're watching, folks, I know we're a broken record, but we do not have funding from massive corporate donors. We don't have funding from the Wall Street, the fossil fuel industry, big pharma, healthcare companies. Our funding comes from you. And we've spent just this month to be out there. I haven't crunched the numbers yet. It's probably going to be close to $8,000 to $10,000. And when you're independent, that costs a lot. So we really appreciate everyone who's been signing up. StatusCoup.com/join. All right. So let's shift now from the home invasion to the ICE breaking into cars and dragging people out. Can you describe what you saw in Addison, Illinois?
Yes. So John and I got to the scene just after this happened. There was still the shattered glass across the parking lot outside of a supermarket in Addison, Illinois, which is a community that is about 50% Hispanic outside of Chicago, just to the west of the city. We got out there. Family of the folks that were victimized were standing there shell-shocked. I was walking up, I was introducing myself, talking to them. You could just tell in their faces like they could not believe what had just happened. They were very shaken. But what had happened was this. A husband and wife couple were in the car with the wife's sister. They had pulled into this supermarket when all of a sudden ICE vehicles pulled in around them, boxing them in, and then the store owner comes out. A bunch of people who were there at the store came out, and they're all yelling things at ICE. Some of them start recording what happened next, which is that they kept their doors and windows closed. And again, we're told agents never produce a warrant, but the agent does pull out like some sort of object that he uses to strike the window, bust out the window to unlock the door, and then physically pull out the people from in the car, detains all three of the people in the car. The woman who was driving, she's able to prove her legal status. The other two are put, the husband and wife couple are put in the ICE vehicles, driven away, disappeared. The man's one of the family members of the couple was able to get the man on the phone for a little bit while he was inside the ICE vehicle, but then, lost contact with them after that. And now that family left picking up the pieces. And of course, that everyone who was there was shell-shocked as well. That it happens out of the blue. There was not warning that ICE was in this community. ICE does not announce themselves. They travel around in unmarked vehicles. John and I that day saw some of those unmarked vehicles that they were in. They look just like any other suburban vehicle that you would see driving down the street in anywheresville, America. Except when they jump out, it's not another family from down the street. It's goons in masks grabbing people just based on the supermarket that they're shopping at or the color of their skin. So we were able to interview an eyewitness who understandably didn't want to be on camera, afraid of reprisals from the federal government. And we were also able to get cell phone video recordings, stuff that was done both by an employee at the supermarket and then by an eyewitness.
Let's, Colin, if we have the video, let's show parts of that. You have that video, Colin?
Which was that one again?
The breaking into the car.
Oh.
I was buying here on this grocery store, and I saw those masked guys right behind of a car that was parking on the parking lot here on the grocery store. And they were waiting here for probably 40 minutes, and after that, they broke the window of the car, and I know they are doing the wrong thing because they don't look criminals, to be honest. And we called the police. The police came, and they do nothing. They couldn't do anything because they said that it's federal.
Just some information that I got from the family was that these two had actually been in the country for about 30 years and did not have criminal history. We're just hardworking people, sort of, the impression that you got as well. What do you feel like is the message that the federal government is attempting to send to this community here in Addison?
I don't know. To be honest, this is what we need to get answers from them. Why they are chasing these people? Why? What? How do they know they are criminals? This is the question. I mean, they are not looking criminals. To be honest, this is not an issue or looking for criminals. We understand when somebody is a criminal anywhere in the United States, they can be taken out, but not these innocent people. They're no criminal. They look more criminal than those guys here with masks, arms, and broke windows and properties. They are innocent, man. This is not fucking right. And you guys gonna pay the fucking consequences later on, man.
We're doing our job.
Yeah, you're doing your job, doing this fucking thing.
Okay, man. I'm not gonna ask you.
Yeah, let me talk to them. The police is here.
You mentioned that you felt like it was hurting the economy here in Addison. Really give us a few examples of how you feel that these raids by the federal government are harming businesses down here and people.
Well, nobody wants to go out right now. See, they're gonna pass the news. They're gonna be afraid. People, even yesterday, we saw those guys in a school. Little kids right there. They are hiding there. They are hitting everything. I mean, how are they gonna go to school? I mean, imagine the fear of the people. I mean, this is not right. This is gonna hurt the economy. They're gonna hurt everything, and this is not right. They're gonna be empty houses, empty apartments, empty businesses. I mean, this is what we want here? I don't know. Somebody can explain to us what this is going to happen.
I want to welcome new Status Coup member just signed up. Jay, welcome, welcome. We also got a new member, Tatiana, signed up. Welcome, welcome, Tatiana. So please, we love shouting out new members. We need you. As humbly as I could say it, but I'm not even going to be that number. I'm not even going to be that humble. We are the only ones out there. JT, John, we are the only ones out there consistently. And Chicago's not our first rodeo. We have been covering the ICE terror in New York City. We covered the ICE raids in Los Angeles, where our reporter out there, Tina Desiree Berg, got shot by a rubber bullet. Rubber bullets, they're not so non-lethal. They can do a lot of damage. We were down there at the torture camp known as Alligator Alcatraz, covering that. We've covered that for months, and we've been on the ground there multiple times. And now in Chicago, and we'll go wherever we have to go next, as far as you take us. You know, the bottom line is it's expensive, like I've said, but I think, you know, there's a lot of channels out there, and they claim to be independent, and they're just basically doing circle jerks and, you know, bloviating out of their butts about bullshit. They're not out in the trenches. And some of those outlets I very much like. But it's a whole nother level when you're actually out there in the trenches, knocking doors, covering protests, breaking news, because when you're out there and roll up your sleeves and talk to community members and just show up, a lot of times you'll be in the right place at the right time just by being out there, which JT and John have been in the right place at the right time. You know, something I want to point out, JT, I don't know if this kind of dawned on you when you saw that. I find it highly dystopian and alarming. The whole thing is highly alarming. But the guy breaking into the car and breaking the glass is wearing an American flag, you know, bandana or mask or whatever that was. I don't know if that makes you uneasy that he's literally wearing, like, he's draping himself in America as he's violating multiple laws. And I don't know that man from Adam. There's a lot of ICE agents violating laws because it comes from the top. And you have Stephen Miller, who I believe is Trump's Joseph Goebbels, going on TV saying ICE agents have full immunity, meaning do whatever the hell you want. There will be no legal consequences. So I don't know your thoughts just on that scene, them breaking the glass. It seems like there is no rhyme or reason to who they're targeting. They're just targeting anyone who looks brown, and kind of the dystopia of it that he was wearing that American bandana.
Yeah, I had the same observation as soon as I saw that video. It was just, my God, the irony of it. It wasn't subtle, right? Like the message that's being sent there with the being draped in the American flag. There's the old saying of, you know, fascism will arrive in America not by goose stepping, but it'll be draped in the American flag and bearing the cross and yada yada. It'll bear all the hallmarks of Americana, and I mean, you see a little taste of it right there in that video, where yes, an ICE agent who is too chicken shit to show their face and announce themselves or produce any sort of warrant or justification for their actions is going to beat their chest in terms of what they're, or peacock in what they're wearing by covering themselves in the American flag. And I know we're going to get to some of the things that these ICE agents have said to protesters that make it very clear their political allegiances, and really makes you question, are they loyal to the American experiment in democracy, or are they loyal to one person? Yeah, it was completely shocking. And the other thing that I'll note that probably isn't able to come across in that reporting is when you show up in these places right after ICE or other federal agencies have been there and have torn apart these communities, it feels like the wind has been knocked out of the neighborhood. You walk in and everybody is in shock in some degree. I made reference to the family that I walked up on there, but that was exactly, what we saw in Brighton Park after federal agents shot a woman in that Chicago neighborhood. After the agency leaves, I mean, everybody's just left to pick up the pieces, wash tear gas out of their eyes. And in our trying to find some of these ICE operations as they're in progress in our reporting around the city, you show up in these neighborhoods maybe right after ICE has left and there's just nobody on the street. So there's just like one person here or there. And you'll walk up to these people and you try and get some details out of them. And I just remember walking up to one woman in a North Chicago suburb a couple of weeks ago and just asked her if she had seen anything. She told me what she had seen, and then she just kind of gestured around. She said, the neighborhood is not usually like this. And I knew exactly what she meant, and I said, not this quiet, you mean? And she said, yes, because this is a city of millions of people, and you go into some of these neighborhoods that are very close to downtown Chicago right after an ICE raid, and it's just a ghost town. It's really shocking what just a few agents riding around, and I mean, sometimes it's just like 3 or 4 agents in an unmarked vehicle. What that is able to do to a community of tens of thousands or millions of people, that fear that they could, is it in that vehicle? Is it in that van? Is it in that U-Haul truck? Is that who's going to jump out and try to harass me just based purely on how I look? I mean, that's a level of fear that, I mean, I don't think can really be summed up well just by video or even the English language.
Well said. And welcome, new Status Coup member Jay just signed up. Welcome, new Status Coup member, the Native American Fixer. I like that name. That's awesome. By the way, we do have a video coming out soon. I did an interview with a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe about the uranium mine that is being rammed through their reservation in South Dakota. So we'll have that up hopefully this week. Welcome, new Status Coup member Casey signed up. Thank you. Now we're humming, we're moving. And we also got through our website. Stephanie signed up. So keep more people that sign up, the more we could stay out there on the ground. It's as simple as that. I know you're getting bombarded all the time with emails from nonprofits, media outlets, politicians politicians you for money. I'm not saying, there's not some good causes out there, but as a consumer, I don't think actual living, breathing, independent journalism anymore is a luxury. I think it's a necessity, and because we don't have that massive corporate funding, we depend on you, the audience, to provide us. And trust me, we've had opportunities to sell out to massive corporate entities. I've actually been getting, as we've grown. By the way, we're almost up 30,000 subscribers this month on YouTube. So thank you to our new subscribers. But as we've been growing, I've been getting emails from companies interested in doing advertising with us and sponsorships. And I have had to go through them. And, it's been tempting. I'm not going to lie, because we could use the extra money. But I've had to turn down several because they don't align with our values. And that's called integrity, which a lot of corporate outlets and influencers happen to be allergic to. But we have integrity, and we're not going to do ads with, healthcare companies, for example, that are hawking Medicare Advantage. We had that as an option. I turned it down. And there's been some other opportunities for sponsorships and advertising, which we turned down. But if you are a progressively aligned company or individual or share our values, feel free to reach out. info@statuscoup.com. But JT, you referenced that there's reports of clearly showing that these ICE agents, I'm not going to say all of them, but certainly a large swath, in addition to thinking that they are, in a scene of Rambo, in addition to thinking that they're in some, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, some of them seem to be pretty MAGA and have an antipathy to or a hatred of who they deem liberals. Let me read you, because this is from a recent lawsuit, and there's a lot of lawsuits flying around, and you're going to be outside the courthouse tomorrow as the Border Patrol Chief, Greg Bavino, who has become a real polarizing figure. He's basically Trump's border chief, and he's been leading the charge of this ICE invasion, Border Patrol invasion in Chicago. To be clear, Border Patrol is only supposed to operate within 100 miles of a border. The border from Chicago is over 200 miles away. So just them being there, based on the law, was illegal. But we did get from this court motion. I'll read it to you, Colin. This is from that court paper, page 6, if you have it. Mr. Bahina has a large, painful welt on his neck and is now fearful about continuing to show up and protest the conduct of federal officers in his city, referring to another protester who was shot at by ICE. As agents were driving away, they pointed a pepper ball gun and then a real gun at declarant Chris Gentry, a combat veteran who was lawfully standing on the side of the road, voicing his opposition as agents were driving by in their vehicles. The agent who pointed the real gun at Mr. Gentry's face said, "Bang, bang, and you're dead, liberal." Let me repeat. Bang, bang, and you're dead, liberal. Plaintiffs also note that the photos and videos appear to show several federal agents wearing body-worn cameras. Plaintiffs have requested any footage from this incident, but they have not received any response as of this filing. So, JT, we're going through this secondhand. We didn't see this, but it is a court filing. It is, through penalty of perjury for a lawyer to put in a court motion lies or things that are not untrue. So I'm going to assume this happened. Does this kind of align with what you and John have been seeing out there with these ICE agents? A lot of them seem, we can't, through the eye test, know if they're MAGA, but it sure does seem they don't like the protesters and they're living out their greatest, Rambo fantasy with the guns and the bazooka guns they're carrying around. They're in sniper position, and now you have them taunting who they deem to be a liberal, basically threatening to kill them.
Yeah, as you say, we weren't there firsthand to witness what's described here in this court filing, but we have been there firsthand for a lot of incidents similar to this, where I read what's alleged in this court filing, and my first thought is, well, yeah, that tracks. I'm not shocked by it anymore at this point, because the one sort of overarching feeling, I guess, that you get off of the agents out here at the Broadview ICE facility is one of antagonism towards the protesters that are out here. Anyone who demonstrates against them gets some sort of antagonization gets antagonized by ICE or other federal agents out here in response. Remember, we were out here one Friday, and the agents are driving by in this big armored vehicle, and it drives out, and they're driving it out clearly just to get shots for their all the propaganda they've been producing while they've been out here. They're being followed around by professional camera people and drones and stuff like that that glorifies their mission out here. And they drive by in this big Bearcat, and then as they drive back in with the armored vehicle past all of these protesters who are out there demonstrating at the time, there's one officer who was sitting on top of the vehicle and just started blowing kisses out to the jeering crowd, which of course got the crowd even more riled up. And that's something that we've seen repeatedly in their tactics that they've used when they respond to the protesters. They do so in a way that is escalatory in force or in a way that is going to clearly rile up the protesters. It has just been so obvious from that propaganda that they've been producing and putting out on social media that they want the response. They want the spectacle out here. We were talking about Greg Bavino, who's going to be in court tomorrow, who's in charge of this operation out here in the Chicagoland area right now. I watched him in person that very same Friday walk out into this crowd of protesters. The crowd of protesters were not on the road. ICE was able to get through. They were able to keep doing their work. There was the state troopers had it handled. There was no need for the federal agents to insert themselves, and yet Greg Bavino comes walking out with several dozen federal agents in tow, faces covered, and they're walking in a way that just looked like they were almost posing for the cameras, like trying to walk slow-mo for those cameras that get out there. And I watched Greg Bavino just go into the crowd, rip one protester out, throw him to the ground, and arrest him personally himself, using way more force than was ever necessary. The officers are trying to push the protesters back. The protesters were moving back, and yet they're going in and just ripping random people out just for the spectacle of arresting them and for the cameras. So yeah, everything that has been described in this filing, while we can't verify it in person ourselves, again, I just say yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. I also want to read from the same lawsuit because there's more passages that the plaintiffs are pointing out that ICE is just lying and making stuff up. This is page 3. The Department of Homeland Security has issued a public statement via its official social media account purporting to justify the actions described above, titled "Law and Order Will Triumph in Chicago," which states in relevant part that rioters shot at agents with commercial artillery shell fireworks. The mob of rioters grew more hostile and violent, advancing towards agents and began throwing rocks and other objects at agents, including one that struck Chief Greg Bavino in the head. Border Patrol agents repeated multiple warnings to back up and that chemical agents would be deployed if warnings were ignored. Riot control measures were deployed, including by Chief Bavino, and arrests were made. Agents properly used their training. The use of chemical munitions were conducted in full accordance with Customs Border Patrol policy and was necessary to ensure the safety of both law enforcement and the public. This statement is a lie. The statement fits two patterns that plaintiffs have highlighted repeatedly in the case. First, the government is inventing exigencies that do not exist to justify its actions. Second, the government is perpetrating extreme violence against peaceful and innocent American civilians in order to provoke a reaction that the government then uses as an after-the-fact justification for the violence it had already used. So I want to zero in on a few things from that, because tomorrow, Greg Bavino, the head of Border Patrol, is being hauled into court. I've been a little frustrated, and I know you and I have talked kind of off camera. I don't know. I mean, in America, if you, JT Siskowski, violate a court order, you're going to be held in contempt and thrown in jail. If I violate a court order, same thing. If normal people violate court orders, if you're not wealthy or the son of a billionaire or et cetera, you're held in contempt and thrown in jail. I mean, we've seen it in those kind of Law and Order kind of shows, or My Cousin Vinny. There's a penalty for violating court orders. Well, a judge, Sarah Ellis, we're talking weeks ago, she ruled that ICE had to stop launching tear gas at protesters, journalists, that they had to stop shooting projectiles at protesters, journalists. ICE was violating it that weekend, and they've repeatedly violated it. And the judge, honestly, all the judge has done is dragged in the deputy field director of ICE in for kind of a stern talking to and explain to me how this isn't violating my court order. I don't really know why you would need it explained. It clearly is violating the court order. And now they're bringing in Bavino, who's almost taunted the judge that they're violating the court order. And this is not new. The Trump administration has repeatedly violated court orders, which is kind of how fascism, kind of cements itself and hardens itself when courts don't matter. And the dictator or the autocrat or the strongman basically do whatever they want. What is your, do I have that wrong, that they've been violating the court order? Why is the judge, to your knowledge, what is the judge doing? What is the purpose of bringing in the Border Patrol chief? Because it doesn't seem to me that there's any real threat here from the courts to punish Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, or the Trump administration with anything more than more legalese, more stern court hearings, but not actually putting anyone in jail.
Yeah, I just to kind of illustrate your point a little bit further. I mean, when we were in Brighton Park, the police were there. Chicago police were there acting as a buffer between the protesters and the Border Patrol agents and other Department of Homeland Security officials who were out there right after the Department of Homeland Security had shot a woman. They had shot a woman, and they're investigating their own shooting, which, of course, is a whole level of absurdity in and of itself about where is the justice there. But the police are there just keeping the crowd back, which they were doing. And then the Border Patrol agents tear-gassed everybody in the neighborhood, including the police. They tear-gassed the Chicago Police Department, and no one from Border Patrol or DHS was ever arrested in that incident. If I or you, Jordan, went and tear-gassed cops, I think we would understand that we were taking our lives in our hands if we were going to do something like that. Of course, we would not. This is just to illustrate a point. But nobody from Border Patrol, after they tear-gassed dozens of police officers, gets arrested there. I think it's just really exposing how our system is designed to oppress the folks who already do not have power and lift up folks who do have power. And then when the folks who do have power so flagrantly disregard a judge's order or the law, there's really no system that we have in place to actually hold them to account when enough pieces of our governmental structure are compromised in the way they are and all held under one political banner rowing in the same direction here that we see right now with conservatives in power. And we were just interviewing yesterday attorney Robert Held out here, and I put a question very similar to what you just asked to him about, like, what can the judge do? Like, shouldn't the judge do something? And he kind of basically shrugged at me and said, what can the judge do? Like, the judge in what army? How, like, she's made her order, now let her enforce it. You know, the old President Johnson quote back from that led to the Trail of Tears. We're seeing something on a smaller scale than that play out here in Chicago where, okay, the judge has made her order restricting the Department of Homeland Security on the use of force and how they can tear gas journalists, including John and myself. Supposedly they're not allowed to do this anymore in these communities, and yet when they so blatantly do it, I mean, what is left for the judge to do? We have not empowered our separate judiciary in any way to be able to enforce. We're really just hoping that the Trump administration plays nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the point you're trying to make is even if the judge wanted to kind of do what you're supposed to do, I mean, technically she could hold the head of DHS in contempt. That would be Christine Ohm. She could hold Greg Bavino in contempt. That's the head of the Border Patrol. Put them in jail. Mm-hmm. Is she gonna then send the Chicago Police Department to handcuff them and put them in jail? And does that then set Trump off to, like, send it to national? I mean, these are unprecedented times, so we really don't know. I think they, at the very least, should try. And if Trump then goes full authoritarian and, you know, sends in the troops to stop the police from, you know, handcuffing and arresting his agents, so be it. But there has to be some penalty for violating a judge's order. If there's not, you're just going to have full-on military rule. But I want to also point out, because, you know, I try to be fair, but there was also something in this court motion where Greg Bavino, the head of Border Patrol, who, by the way, is featured in all these highly propagandized ICE videos. It seems a big portion of this $250 billion ICE budget is going to, like, Hollywood-level production films to make ICE agents look like, you know, Rambo, look like, you know, the Terminator out there, look like, you know, SEAL Team 6 invading, you know, apartments and dragging out, you know, mothers and children. They're highly, highly propagandized videos that are honestly dystopian to watch. But he said something in this. He said something to a reporter. My reading of it was almost like potentially stoking violence against the judge. I want to read this part, page 4, from this court motion, Colin. In reality, multiple declarants and numerous video clips demonstrate that the crowd in Little Village that was another area that ICE invaded, was peaceful at the moment that defendant Bavino, the head of Border Patrol, started the conflict by launching canisters of tear gas into the assembled crowd, and that no warnings of dispersal orders were given before he did so. In addition, despite investigation, plaintiffs are not aware of any evidence that commercial artillery shell fireworks were fired by anyone at the scene. And that's, by the way, basically debunking and rebutting ICE, who was saying that protesters were firing commercial fireworks at them. The attorneys are basically saying that's a lie. Following the incident, defendant Bavino was interviewed by a reporter. In that interview, Bavino appears uninjured. He says in response to questions, words to the effect of, "Did Judge Ellis get hit in the head by a rock like I did this morning?" Defendant Bavino continues saying something like, "Maybe she needs to see what that's like before she gives an order like that." I don't know your take on that, but I mean, he's not a stupid man. And I'm sure he's aware that there's been a lot of political violence recently. What is your take when he's basically suggesting maybe the judge needs to be hit by rocks to know what it's like for these, poor ICE agents out there?
Yeah, it can certainly sound like a threat, and I'm really curious to see if the judge is going to read it that way. When we do go cover the hearing tomorrow, we'll be live outside of the courthouse. There's going to be a large protest, but we'll be covering the events that are happening inside the courthouse as Greg Bavino is being interviewed by the judge at the same time. It was something that I put, again, to Attorney Robert Held yesterday, like, how is the judge going to respond to this? Because my God, does it sound so much like a threat directed towards the judge? And, he was aghast. Like, I had been framing a lot of my questions to him of like, put yourself in the attorney for the government's shoes, and how are you advising Greg Bavino? And he seemed kind of at a loss at that point, like basically wanted to throw up his hands and say, like, I think that is indefensible at that point. So it's really just about how much principle does the judge really want to hold, herself and the Department of Homeland Security to in actually holding Greg Bavino and the other members of Operation Midway Blitz out here accountable for their actions.
I want to also point out that over the weekend, while you were kind of roaming around, you ran into somebody whose brother had been recently taken by ICE, and during your conversation, he told you that he voted for Trump. Before I get your reaction to that, if people haven't seen that, it was quite the moment, because obviously there's been some kind of buyer's remorse. A lot of those people don't really want to put that out there on camera as far as MAGA, but this was an immigrant, it seems, whose brother had just been taken by ICE, and he said that he voted for Trump. Let's see what he told you about it, basically regretting it.
We started talking because we were hearing about your brother's story and what happened to him. Can you walk us through that again?
Yeah. So basically, my brother and his friend, they went to church 9 in the morning in Fullerton, St. Joseph Catholic Church. So they stopped by here to buy something for breakfast. They went to the ATM Chase Bank, and they arrested outside there. And my brother told me they took more people. They didn't ask anything, say, "Oh, you're a citizen," and they refused to talk, and then they basically pulling out from the car. That happened last Sunday. I'm already trying to call the number from ICE for see. I don't know anything. There is no results. I don't know where is my brother. I tried to talk with the Mexican consular, and they told me it's part of the process because they're gonna deport him to Mexico. But still, it's a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. And my brother, he's in this country, hard working for over 20 years. No criminal, 100% sure, no criminal. I can put my name on it. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I can put my name on it. He doesn't have any criminal. I know he used to have no insurance ticket around just in Addison Police Department, but he doesn't have any felony. He doesn't have anything. He just 57 years old, hard worker, just try to make a better life.
57 years old, working in this country for 2 decades, paying taxes to this country for programs that he will never be able to benefit from because not a legal citizen, and the way the government repays him is to send masked agents into his community to abduct him based purely on how he looks, because I assume that they never produced a warrant or anything like that?
Nothing. They don't have any paperwork. They just, if they see some Hispanic race, they don't care. They gonna stop by and put the cars behind your car, and they don't show any warrant. They don't show anything. I hear from people they make a bonus, like $1,500 bonus for any illegal alien that they find, and they use this is a game for them. I don't know if those people, maybe the criminals are they. Who knows if they hire a right people. I'm okay. Like I said, I did my vote. I'm gonna be free. I did vote for Donald Trump.
You voted for him. How are you feeling about that vote now?
Now I feel like what I did for this is like I never did my vote for a guy who is kidnap people, and this is like I feel like stupid because I see that around here, and there is everybody's scared. Everybody's like they don't want to go nowhere because if they go to the restaurant, you see the signs in the front. If they go to the mall, you're going to see ICE. ICE are all over, and they don't care. If you have your kids, they don't care. They're going to take you. They're going to take you. If you are, this is out of control now, and I don't know where this is going to, where this is going to go now. When they going to stop?
What were the things that Donald Trump was saying while he was campaigning that made him earn your vote? Like what made you vote for him?
He said we're going to take criminals from out of this country. This is a beautiful country. This is a country that you can make. If you work hard, you can have a nice car. You can have a really good life. And when he said that, I say, okay, this is my guy. And I want this country free to criminals. You know, I want this country like make America great again. That was his speech. And then he's doing opposite things because all the people that he's targeting, there are construction, restaurant people, and this is going to hit the economy. The economy, I don't know where the economy is going to go after this, but for sure it's going to impact that.
So I had a lot of thoughts watching that. But we should also point out to folks, one of the big things about the election results that people were really surprised about when Trump beat the vice president, the Hispanic vote shifted Republican and to Trump. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like one of the highest percentages in decades. And people were like, what? I mean, obviously Hispanics don't only vote on immigration, just like, everybody votes on a lot of different things, and everybody, white, black, brown, the economy is often number one for most people. But I think that gentleman represents a lot of Hispanic people right now who they truly believed Trump was going to go after, the bad ones, as Trump called it. I saw a lot of people dunking on him in the comments. Obviously, we posted the video. And I understand that sentiment, to want to say, I told you so, and say, well, you should have listened. But I at least appreciate, there's a lot of people who are too stubborn to admit they're wrong, personally and politically. So I appreciate that at least he's, owning up to the fact that he was hoodwinked and he was wrong. And he's using the term, I didn't vote for a guy to kidnap people. What were your thoughts just in the moment interviewing him?
As we had been talking to Sergio off camera, we'd been getting his brother's story about the abduction and that kidnapping of his brother, and we had been talking for quite a while before we actually hit record on the camera. So I knew a lot of what he was going to say, but I was surprised in that clip when he says that he voted for Trump, because that wasn't something he had volunteered in our pre-interview. So he just felt that comfortable to share, and as you say, Jordan, like just owned up to it. Just was like, I voted for him I feel stupid. Didn't attempt to justify his vote at all. There was no excuse making. The only time that he justified his vote was when I explicitly asked him, which is, what made you vote for Donald Trump? And, you call out there like, the Latino community doesn't only vote on immigration. I'll point out that in Sergio's answer, he doesn't say immigration. When he's talking about what Trump was going to do, he frames it from the perspective of crime and safety in his community. He thought Trump was going to get criminal elements out of his community, make him feel a little bit safer and sleep a little bit safer at night, and then also addressed economic anxiety, that Trump was going to fix the economy. These were the things that were on Sergio's mind going into the election. When he's thinking about safety, he's not thinking about his brother, because his brother to him is a law-abiding person who has lived here for decades and should not enter into that equation at all. So yeah, definitely that feeling of remorse, but I think also just like a feeling of being lied to, because he was led to understand that this immigration crackdown, this is really about criminals, and that's how it's been framed here in the Chicagoland area about Operation Midway Blitz, is that the administration, when they announced Operation Midway Blitz, they had a big press release where they included some mugshots of some people that they said, like, these are the kinds of people that we want to go after. And, some of them had, rather long rap sheets, and that's the way they're trying to justify it. But what has actually been happening here on the ground is not that they are trying to investigate and actually find criminals. Instead, these agents have just been tooling around in cars, stopping and nabbing people off the street, whatever the easiest person is to grab. So a lot of the time, who are they grabbing? They're not grabbing criminals. They are grabbing food cart vendors. They are grabbing day laborers, people who are just trying to feed their family and live the American dream, this thing that we've been promising people around the world. And so what I took from Sergio's answer was just like, what an encapsulation of so many things that I have heard out here in Chicago in this time. And yeah, a lot of credit to Sergio for feeling brave enough to admit that on camera, knowing that, what the reaction could be to that. I give him all the credit in the world for just being so candid with us and, owning up to it. And he's not just like talking the talk, about what he wants to see done. He's walking the walk too. Like, the reason that we were interviewing him in that moment is because that's in the same parking lot as the window smashing incident that we played earlier. That's where we met him, was in that same parking lot, because he was out there yelling at ICE. Like, he had driven over there specifically to try and find ICE, and then after our interview wrapped up, we had gotten a report, or we had heard that ICE might be down the street, and Sergio was in his truck driving that way before John and I could get to our car. So, he's living it, and he wants to see, be a part of a movement where he thinks that the Latino population is going to have something politically to say about this in the next elections, should we get there, fingers crossed. And, he wants to be a part of that movement as well.
And you know what? I'm going to take off my glasses. JT is a little bit more modest than I. We'll get him to be as rambunctious and off the hinges as I am. But we have just outlined 4 or 5 stories and interviews in that JT did in 3 days. Do you see corporate media doing any of this shit, folks? I do not. And they have, we're talking quadruple, 10-druple, 50-druple. I'm making up words. They have multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates as their parent companies. CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, even the local outlets in the Chicago area have more resources than we do, and more staff. If they wanted to cover these stories, if they wanted to interview these people, they could do it, and they could do it much more often and probably quicker than we can. But they're not. Why is that? I'd like to know. And this is not unique to ICE. I've been dealing with this for over a decade doing this. Status Coup, through the viewers, is often the only national outlet on the ground at a lot of these stories. I have been the only reporter in Flint, Michigan, at least, I've been there 21 times. Most of those times, I was the only national reporter still covering a community being poisoned. And by the way, if you're new to Status Coup, the water's still poisoned in Flint 11 years later. Don't listen to the federal government and the politicians feeding you bullshit. Listen to the residents living the nightmare. There's a lot of stories we cover on the ground that if corporate media is there, they're in the back. I mean, JT and John have been the one being tear gassed, had flashbangs, pepper balls shot within a few feet of them, while local reporters are kind of comfortably in the back. Maybe, I'm not attacking them. You're not a bad person if you don't want to, get out there and take a risk, but we are. And these are not easy stories to break. As JT has been talking, you might not know the geography of Chicago. It's not a small city. So they are zigzagging between Broadview, which is about 12, 13 miles outside of Chicago. They're zigzagging from Broadview to downtown Chicago to, suburbs of Chicago. So from wealthy neighborhoods to Hispanic neighborhoods to black neighborhoods. There's a lot of driving and a lot of, most local reporters, JT could tell you because he was one. And, now he's in recovery with us. I snagged him out of local media, and I'm very happy that we hired him. But most local reporters, it's not that, your day is kind of like, kind of self-contained. It's not that they don't work hard, but you're not working 17-hour days and you're not driving all around Chicago trying to find a story like this. So I am begging you. I am not beyond begging the people. I will not beg corporate America. I will not beg Wall Street. I will not beg the fossil fuckers. I will not beg big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, or the military-industrial complex, or Palantir and the other AI corporate surveillance vultures surveilling all the protesters out there. But I will beg you. So if you don't have $5 a month, no shame, times are tough. But if you want to support this reporting, obviously we have to pay JT, pay John, our cameraman, who deserves a lot of credit too. He's been out there for over a month. He missed a lot of weekends with his daughter to be out there for you, the people, to show you what's going on. JT, by the way, has a newborn. He might have not mentioned. I don't know. I think like 2 months old. He's out there when he can be spending valuable time with her. Not that he's a deadbeat. He's a good dad. But you get my point. Yep. So please support us. I'm talking you can become a member for as low as 16 cents a day. 16 cents a day. StatusCoup.com/join because it's expensive. All right, JT, now that I did that sales pitch, I want to did I miss anything?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, I guess, throw in there, like some references, like you just back up some of your points that you're making there. I have not seen another TV camera, another reporter in going on 48 hours now in all of the driving that John and I have done to all of these different scenes that we have been out here. We're out here in Broadview, which has been the center. There's I want to just scream. I told this to John in the car. We listen to the local news when we're driving around in the car on the radio. And I just want to scream at the radio. Do you know that people are being abducted in your communities? Because they hardly ever talk about it. Just down the block from me, I'm looking at a building right now where what we have heard is that there are people standing 60 to a cell and having to sleep standing up because they are so packed full of people who have just been disappeared off the streets of Chicago. And John, I don't know if I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you just pan the camera around, yeah, John's kind of got the camera on the tripod right now, so it'll be kind of tough for him to pan. There are no other cameras out there. Right there at the end of the street is where we have seen other national media set up the couple of days that they have bothered to parachute in here. They will set up there at the end of the street, well away from the building where ICE is, well away from the protesters, and just do a beautiful live hit in the evening news down there. And then they will leave. And then it is just us out here covering all of these stories. You talked about how, in a lot of cases, even local media isn't covering this. In the case of that story that we brought you where the window was smashed out of a car, I did see some of that video played on the local newscast here in Chicago last night, but they only did it they just reported off of what they saw on social media. Nobody bothered to drive out there. Nobody got the contact information of the family. No one bothered to learn the names of the people who were grabbed by ICE the way I and John did when we were out there. And because of that, they also don't get the follow-on stories from that. They don't get to see ICE just a few feet from them the way we did because they had pulled up into an adjoining parking lot and we walked over there to get video of their vehicles, and we were able to use that to then try and figure out where else in the city that we should be. And they also didn't then get the follow-on interview with Sergio to get his brother's story about his disappearance and his regretfulness about voting for President Trump in all of this, because they weren't there. They never bothered to show up. They're content to just report from a safe distance without ever really getting in the mix there. So yes, that is just to illustrate further of what you said, Jordan.
Absolutely. Colin, I want to play some more of the clips from JT's protest coverage the other night. I don't know what order you have it in, but you interviewed some folks down by the protest. There was some tension between the police and protesters because police have, under the Broadview mayor, have created this free speech zones where certain areas you can have free speech, and I guess the rest is just fascism. I don't really understand it, as well as a curfew, which doesn't really make any sense because this is a democratic state and the governor has gone in front of any camera that will have him basically saying, we're going to fight Trump. We're not going to lift a finger to ICE, yet they're restricting protests and setting curfews, even though there's been, from what I could tell, virtually no violence. Colin, whatever clip you have first.
I'll just say that police again on a megaphone saying you need to leave the area or you will be subject to arrest.
But my whole point is when stuff's getting escalatory and when the police are amping up the pressure on the protesters and the crowd's starting to get stressed because the police are positioning like they're going to kettle us, I think it would just be smart for the police to just keep the propaganda or the propaganda-looking cameras out of here. Like, if they want to record us, they're going to record us. But it seems like every single time they're down here with those cameras, we get brutalized worse than when those specific set of cameras aren't out here. I've been out here twice now when the cameras have been rolling, and it has been so brutal. It's beyond what you can believe through your screen. It's like it's a totally different scenario once you're down here in the streets experiencing like the brutalization at the hands of the government and the local police.
These people come to our streets. I have always felt safe in Chicago, and I have never felt more unsafe than since they've been here.
And they being?
ICE. We don't want them here. We're fine. Chicago's fine. These are our neighbors. I don't want you in our neighborhoods. Who are these people? They're coming from where? Are you from Chicago? We live here. These are our neighborhoods. These are our neighbors. Hands off.
So if you couldn't hear that clip, JT, that was two of the protesters you interviewed. And the last one was basically saying, basically asking, who are these ICE people? They're not from Chicago. And basically saying she always felt safe in Chicago, but now they're terrified. And she's not the only one. You've talked to residents who are afraid to leave their home. And we're not only talking about immigrants, like just everyone. Everyday citizens are afraid to leave their home. Can you kind of talk about some of that sentiment you got from protesters the other night?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was able to listen to a little bit of those clips, Jordan, as you're tossing to them. I try to bring up the live stream just so you're aware, though I don't catch all of them. But that sentiment has been very, like, the frustration about the protest zones has been intense down here. You talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker, going in front of any camera and talking tough on the Trump administration while at the same time sending state troopers out here to kettle the protesters and corral them into these little free speech zones that are well away from the ICE facility so they can't put any sand in the proverbial machine out here. It really seems to me that what Governor Pritzker wants to do is sound tough, and he seems to think that at least from what he says, that the Trump administration is one that is authoritarian, if not outright fascist, that that the Trump administration is looking for any excuse to implement martial law, and that they'll do so. They will implement the Insurrection Act or whatever it takes to get troops on the ground. It just seems like all J.B. Pritzker wants to do is make sure that excuse doesn't come from Chicago, so it's not on his watch. It's just like about keeping the resume clean in that way. So long as that happens somewhere else, that seems to be like, a foregone conclusion to them. But if that means eliminating the rights of the people down here to be able to demonstrate against their government peacefully, then that is what the federal government will do. You talk about like the fear of people not wanting to leave their homes, like that is, yeah, like that's a very real sentiment that we've heard from the protesters here in the crowd. A lot of times, like I'll find, like there'll be somebody new out here and I'll say, what made you want to come out now? And they finally said, like, you know, I wanted to just stay home. I didn't want to come out here, but now I feel like it's gotten so bad that it's just reached that tipping point for me personally. Because yeah, we've heard from folks in some of these neighborhoods who say like, I don't leave my house for anything except the bare essentials because they're afraid of being profiled by ICE just walking out their front door, going down the street to the store to get groceries or whatever they need that day. They are waiting inside and living inside of their homes as much as they can because they are terrified to leave. I ran into one couple at a restaurant in the Brighton Park neighborhood who told me that we're walking around everywhere with our birth certificates because they need to be able to prove to ICE agents that they have legal residency here in the United States so that they are not swept up and become collateral damage, as we've seen like a number of legal residents also detained and arrested by ICE. Incidentally, just based on some of the anecdotes that we've been hearing out here, like just wanting that just to be able to like show papers, like you have to be able to show your papers now in the United States of America.
Yeah, and before we go, I want to also point out Pritzker. I mean, obviously, you'd have to be pretty stupid to not realize he's running for president, as is Gavin Newsom. But I mean, this is the Broadview mayor who is setting curfews and free speech zones. Politically, I mean, you'd have to be pretty naive to think that the Broadview mayor is not in communication with the governor's office and the governor is completely removed from all of this. So the fact that the state troopers are on the ground there, we've shown footage of state troopers holding billy clubs and going after protesters who were not armed, were not doing anything. I'm sure the governor is aware there's a curfew. They could try and make it out to be some local thing, like it's the mayor here making the decisions. I've been around the block. The governor's involved here. And honestly, politically, put aside the fact that it's anti-American, politically it's stupid. He would be setting himself a lot better to go against Trump or whomever next go around if he went balls to the wall against Trump and didn't cooperate at all. But they refused to do that. All right, I want to move it forward. You guys are going to be out there definitely tomorrow. We'll see past then. Tell the audience what's happening tomorrow in court. What are those protests outside the courthouse for? And also, we still have the Supreme Court hovering over all of this. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court, who's obviously in the tank for Trump because they're all mostly right-wingers, to basically overrule the lower courts who have blocked the National Guard, meaning troops, from being deployed in Chicago. So that decision can come at any time, which we expect. We expect the Supreme Court to rule with Trump. But tell us first what's going to happen tomorrow in court and the context about that Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, so they're really two separate things, right? Because they deal with two separate lawsuits. Tomorrow's court hearing down in downtown Chicago at the federal courthouse down there, Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino, or Commander, excuse me, Greg Bavino is going to be answering questions to Judge Ellis because he has operated in pretty blatant violation of the judge's order restricting use of force in these Chicago neighborhoods, the deploying of tear gas that we talked about earlier, that the way that DHS has just operated, just like act so inflammatory towards people, immediately escalate to use of force, not giving proper warnings, just deploying tear gassing communities that have small children in them. We talked about the incident with the baby that was tear gassed as well. So Greg Bavino is going to be down at the federal courthouse building in Chicago tomorrow morning. And so we're operating on Central Time. So we will be down there at 9 a.m. for a protest outside that is specifically targeted at Greg Bavino because he is leading this operation for the Trump administration out here in Chicago. If you've never heard of Greg Bavino before in your life, God bless you. But he has got to be damn near a household name here in the Chicagoland area because of all of the pain that he has inflicted in these communities. A lot of people know who he is, and they are coming to say that they explicitly want Greg Bavino out of here. And it's really a larger protest against the Trump administration as well and its tactics out here. So we'll be live at that protest outside of the federal courthouse. But of course, a lot of this emotion, as you're making or a lot of the feelings and the apprehension out here in Chicago, is that fear of troops also being put on the ground here, National Guard troops, and that ruling from the Supreme Court could come at any time because a different judge had put a different restraint on the Trump administration, barring them temporarily from deploying National Guard troops in the state of Illinois, with the exception of a few military bases around the state. Those National Guard troops have been kept off of the streets of the Chicagoland area, and that ruling from the Supreme Court could come at any time, giving the green light to the Trump administration, allowing them to deploy those troops.
All right, man. I very much appreciate your work. Tell John behind the camera. Let's not forget the intrepid John Farina, who's been tear gassed, flashbanged, pepper sprayed, mauled by police more times than we could count. Got the incredible January 6th footage. So let's not forget he's doing God's work out there from behind the camera. So we thank him. We will be live tomorrow, like JT said. It's 9 a.m. Central is the court hearing.
Correct. That's when the protest started. I believe the court hearing is actually just after that at 10 a.m. Central, if I remember correctly. You're taxing my memory here, Jordan, live on stream. But yeah, I believe that the protest begins in advance of the court hearing.
Got it. So we'll be live when the protests start, roughly around 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. But you gotta stick with us. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel. And please support us. I can only ask 600 times. United Healthcare is not paying for this. Goldman Sachs not paying for this. Palantir is not paying for this. ICE is not paying for this. And the Democratic and Republican Party donors who have purchased our government are not supporting Status Coup. And we do not want their support. We need your support. So thank you to all the new members. You could sign up at any time. By the way, as a member, which JT will have to join his first one soon, we do a monthly members call through kind of like a Zoom program. So it's a video call. We take your questions, comments, kind of give you some behind the scenes stuff you might not know about happening. So we'll do that one once John and JT are back home. So you get perks as a member. Also, you get merchandise discounts, as well as behind the scenes content from our on the ground reporting. I'm going to let you guys go, do your thing, whatever else you got going on today. But thank you, and we will see you live tomorrow morning.
Thanks very much, Jordan.
All righty. And before we wrap, let me give some shout outs here. Jay became a new Status Coup member. Thank you, Jay. Native American Fixer became a YouTube member. Thank you. Casey Kelly became a YouTube member. Thank you, Casey Kelly. Justin became a YouTube member. Thank you, Justin. Carol signed up as a YouTube member. Appreciate it. Priscilla signed up as a YouTube member. Appreciate it. Justin, $9.99 super chat. Truth and integrity matter more than ever right now, and that is what Status Coup gives you. Thank you for bringing what others don't to light. Thank you for that kind comment and the super chat. Club Brain Fog became a YouTube member. Thank you. Big Dumb Animal, $4.99. Hippo Character applauds. Wilson nodding in approval, saying GG. All right. Christopher, $2 super chat. It's not much, but I hope it. Oh, $20 super chat. Excuse me. It's not much, but I hope it helps. It helps a lot. That's one meal right there on the road. Brett has been a member for a month. To get a little star by my name, have to get a membership. Hit the like too while you're at it. LOL. Thank you. And welcome. We got a couple members on our website too. Steven signed up. Tatiana signed up. And two that I can't read your names. So thank you. Again, we'll be live tomorrow. And please, if you haven't seen the videos we played, even if you did, go watch them under the video tabs. The more people that click, let it run, the more YouTube shares it in their algorithm and recommends it to other people. You could also sign up for free to our Substack. That's statuscoupsubstack.com, StatusCoupSubstack.com.
New member Matt as well on the website.
Oh, Matt signed up as well. Thank you. Hidden Dinosaur. That's Colin. Thank you. You can sign up for our Substack. We're some of our investigative reporting list. That's StatusCoupSubstack.com. And I think I got everything. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.